Chapter 6, Knowing What You Know. I feel there are two people inside me and my intuition. If I go against her, she'll screw me every time. And if I follow her, we get along quite nicely. That's Kim Basinger. Intuition will tell the thinking mind where to look next. Jonas Salk. Once you begin to accept that you are enough, have enough, and do enough, you will have more energy to put towards what you know. You will have the same stamina to trust that in being enough, you have a sense of what you know and what you believe, and you begin to trust what you know. This is so important. As a single woman, you have to trust your instincts and be able to protect yourself and family and sense when things aren't right. Accepting being enough gives you more energy to put in this direction, knowing what you know and trusting your instincts. Know what you know is one of my favorite sayings. I had to relearn to trust my instincts. I say relearn because we're born with instincts and we're told not to trust them. We're told we are thinking too much, overreacting, maybe even crazy. I spent a period of time getting in touch with my instincts and began to trust what I knew. I recommend a book by Gavin de Becker. It's called The Gift of Fear. De Becker talks about the mind's ability to know things that you know. He tells stories about women who have been assaulted or raped, and they almost always say in retrospect, I knew something was wrong. As a single parent, you have to not only trust your instincts, but nurture your children to trust theirs as well. This means validating them, believing them, and helping them understand what instinct is and how valuable it is. I used to work with a blind man named Randy. He was amazing. He worked in radio as a sports broadcaster. Yeah, he played rock and roll on the piano, and he walked to and from work. Randy had a wonderful sense of humor, and I loved working with him. One day, he was walking down the hall to the restrooms. I saw him coming toward me, and I just stopped right in the middle of the hall and waited while he passed. But before he got to me, he swerved. While I stood still in the same spot, he went around me. After he passed, I called out, "Hey, Randy." My voice startled him a bit. I asked if he knew I was standing in his way. He said, "No." I said, "Well, then why did you move over and go around me?" He told me he wasn't sure, but somehow he knew there was a barrier. The problem with trusting your instincts and avoiding potential dangerous things is that you never really know what you avoided. If you have a feeling not to go somewhere and you don't go, you don't know what would have happened. So you don't know if you're being silly or if there really was a deeper reason you didn't go. If I tell my kids I have a bad feeling about something and don't let them go, we never know if it was real or not. And because of your gut feeling, your children wasn't there. I spent a lot of time second-guessing my choices. Did I do the right thing? Well, know what you know. Believe in yourself and trust what you know. Our instincts won't keep us from all danger, but there are times when I just have felt something on a deeper level. In the past, I would poo-hoo it away, and now I'm learning to take stock in it and trust. I work in downtown Seattle, and I get off work very late. There have been times when something in me has prompted me to take a different route to my bus. It seems so silly, and I don't want to go out of my way, but I have learned to trust the prompting, and I go a different way. If nothing happens, was I safe or silly? Well, I'll err on the side of silly. When it comes to making decisions for my kids or getting help for them, I have to know what I know about them. We advocate for our kids because we know them best. We know ourselves and we know our family dynamics. People will say, you should do this or that, and maybe you know if it isn't something that will work for your family. Trust that. Know what you know. I had a friend who was blogging, and suddenly some strange things began to show up on her blog comments and in her emails. When she told me about it, I knew she was being stalked. She was trying to downplay the whole thing, but I asked her, "What do you think's going on?" And that's when push came to shove. She was really bothered because something was off and she knew it. She spoke with a coworker who suggested she call the FBI, and she did. And then she posted it to her blog, and the harassment and crazy emails stopped. Know what you know and trust your instincts. Choices. Believe your kids and teach them to trust their instincts too. It is the best way for them to stay safe. For some reason, we are taught not to trust our instincts. We will minimize what we feel and tell ourselves we are making a big deal out of nothing, overreacting. There is just enough truth in those messages to cause us to doubt what we know. So we finally diss ourselves. Other people reinforce this self-deprecation. I don't know why I let people minimize my sense of things, but I often do. I think I do because people should on me. When I started to learn to say thanks, but that's not going to work for us, or just plain thanks, and then did what I believed was right for my family, things ran a lot smoother. Stand by your values. People have a ton of advice, but not a lot of listening, hearing skills to match that advice. I longed for people to listen and hear what I thought was important. I did have friends who believed in me, trusted me to make good choices for my family, and I'm so grateful to all who believed in me. What a gift. How do you know if what you know is real or overreaction? Well, there's a book called Blink that can help its readers better understand this. I know there were times when I didn't want my kids to do things only because I worried, not because I had a gut feeling. And it's hard letting go as a parent and allowing things to be what they will be. Talk with friends who know and love you. See a counselor or get a coach to help you through those times. I learned to know the difference between worry and gut feeling. Sometimes things do happen even if you didn't have a feeling about them. Don't beat yourself up. You can only do what you can do, and sometimes bad things or tough things lead to great adventures. Looking back in the middle of an adventure doesn't always look like it does in the movies. When you're in a leadership role, you have to rely on what you know, and so start practicing before you step into the role. Is there a situation where you are not being true to what you know? What can you do to turn this around? These all feel like trite sayings, but know what you know, believe yourself, and stand by what you believe. And this includes your values. Don't go against your values to do what others think or believe you should do. In fact, if you hear a should, stop, take time to think it through. Is it something that will work for you? If you do it, will it be because you feel guilty? Will it be because you don't want to let someone down? What should you do? Well, I believe that when we are seeking to grow and learn and be who we be, being who we were meant to be, that we will know what to do. We will know who to trust and who to take advice from. And most of all, we will make good choices for our families, even if it doesn't look like it to others. Many times you'll be misunderstood and disappointed in others who can't support or believe in you. Sometimes it is incredibly lonely to do what you know is best for your family. Do it anyway, and remember this too will pass. It may be tempting to use your newfound power to manipulate the troops, resist, and be real and honest, especially with yourself. I tried to give my kids choices as much as possible because they made the choice, then they had to take responsibility for it. I had a child who didn't function well when backed into a corner, so I always gave him choices because then he felt like he had some control in his life. You can do it now or in 10 minutes, or you can go stay in your room. There are 3 choices. There are 3 options. Whenever I've been in a tough situation and felt like there was no way out, I looked for alternatives, and even when they weren't perfect, options are invaluable, but having no recourse leads to frustration, victimization, and depression. I use the option theory in my coaching, parenting, and friending. Sometimes our friends just need help brainstorming options when they find themselves in some of those difficult situations. Having options increases creativity and possibilities. Having options and helping others see their options is a very valuable life tool. When have you been in a situation where you thought you had no options? How did you feel? What did you do? Did it work out? Was there someone to blame? What situation do you find yourself in now where you can create some options? How about a friend who needs some options? Or a child that you know of just needs some help making some decisions? Even a bad option is still an option. I remember when I was working at a job I hated. I was marching to the mailbox asking myself, what do I want? I wanted to know that I was going to make it. I wanted to know I had choices and the possibility of a life ahead of me. I did not want to be a victim of this is as good as it gets message. I realized that at that point, if it was meant to be, well, it was up to me. I began looking at my options and my possibilities and made a plan. It all seemed so impossible, but impossible was better than staying in a place that was not good or healthy for me. I hate the words, I can't, because How about, these are my options, but for the time being, I am choosing to stay in this particular situation. Saying it in the way of it being your choice is empowering. I don't have an antidote to your life. I can't say if you do A, B, and C that life will work. I'm saying to trust yourself and know what you know. You have a belief system. You have an idea of how life looks, even if it doesn't go the way you planned, or even if you don't have a plan. But you know if you did, this wasn't it. There is a lot to thinking about your future and planning for what you want and what you love. It may take years to get there, but knowing and thinking about a plan while giving yourself grace to get through life is a good place to start. We know certain things, yet we tell ourselves lies. We tell ourselves we're washed up, no one will ever love us, and all our baggage. We tell ourselves the bad messages we have heard along the way. Messages like, I'll never make it, I'll never amount to anything, or I can't because. If there's anything I could tell you that might work, it is to believe and change the messages you tell yourselves. Pay attention to what you're saying in your head. I messed up again. I can't get anything right. My favorite example is when I hear people say, I would give anything to have that or do that. Really? When I started to think about what I had said, I would think, no, I wouldn't give up my kids to get that car, or I wouldn't give anything to have that. This just causes me to focus on what I don't have. I would rather think I'm making a choice to not have that because I wouldn't really give anything to attain it. What messages are you telling yourself? Start paying attention to them, and if they're not true, then be big enough to stop the messages. I have crooked teeth, and so I often think I'm ugly. I have to fight that message. I work hard to look good and keep my hair up. I wear makeup. I don't want to buy into the ugly message. Yes, my teeth are crooked, but I have made the choice to leave them this way because I chose other things for my family rather than paying for braces. It was and still is a choice. When I can take responsibility for what is going through my head, I am going to get farther and accomplish far more than wasting time on debilitating messages. Know what you know and take responsibility for it. Do not be the victim of your own story. Yes, things happen that are out of your control. Being left and abandoned by a husband can leave you victimized. What will you choose? Will you decide to live in that state or rise above? Life is short, and although it doesn't seem like it, your time as a single parent is limited, and before you know it, this too will pass. What will you all remember about your times together? Make the most of a difficult, sad situation. Validate yourself and give yourself permission to be sad, and then move on. Begin rewriting the messages going through your head. They may be yours or they may be from someone else. Don't give them free rent in your head. You can tell yourself new improved messages like, I'm going to get through this. I'm going to find my way. I am choosing to fill in the blank. What messages can you reframe and make more positive? Knowing what you know is a broad subject, but the more you get in touch with it and trust yourself, you will feel safer and you will model this for your children. We know ourselves better than anyone, and we have to give ourselves permission to make our own decisions by what we know about ourselves and family. Just wondering, when have you felt validated? When have you been able to validate someone else? What situation are you in that you feel stuck and would like to explore options and choices? Is there someone safe to do this with? If not, you might consider a coach. Are you living with this is as good as it gets? Explain. How can you turn that around? What steps can you take towards what's next? What is holding you back? Do you feel you have a lack of choices? Are you gripped by fear? What do you really want? When have you had a gut feeling about something? How did it turn out? What can you do to trust your instincts if you don't already? Know what you know.